Hello, and welcome back to another reading from Defying the Stars Tarot and Astrology. Before I get into today's reading, I would just like to send out a reminder, just a gentle ask. If you are enjoying these videos, if they do anything for you, I would appreciate just a little bit of feedback, a comment, a like. Those little things, I know that you get bugged for them all the time on YouTube because everybody's trying to play the algorithm. I will say that I don't expect to monetize this channel, at least not anytime soon, but probably not ever. But it would be nice just to know that I'm not just sending these readings out into a void and nobody is benefiting from them. So if you do enjoy, if you get something out of this, just hit that like button. I'd really appreciate it. But we'll go ahead and get started. For today's reading, we are going to be asking, what is your greatest strength? This reading might be particularly useful if you are on a job search, you're getting ready for interviews, something like that. This might give you a good idea of what to highlight first and foremost. Of course, that might depend very much on the job. But, it's also just good to have a reminder of what we do well and where our strength lies so that we can focus on those things during the hard times. So, our question is, what is your greatest strength? And we have our 4 decks as usual. Deck number 1 is the Modern Witch Tarot. Deck number 2 is Skyrim Tarot. Deck number 3 is Grimalkin's Curious Cats Tarot. And deck number 4 is the Adventurer's Tarot. So go ahead and close your eyes, take a deep breath. As you release that breath, open your eyes and pick the deck that calls to you first. You can find the links to each reading in the description below, or just navigate to the timestamp on the video. And I will see you for your reading. Thank you so much. Welcome to the reading for deck number 1, our Modern Witch Tarot. As usual, I have pre-shuffled the deck, so we're going to cut it and get right into our reading. So today's question is, what are your greatest strengths? And let's go ahead and pull out our first 3 cards. So we have the 6 of Pentacles reversed, the 4 of Pentacles, and the 8 of Wands. All right. So what I'm getting from this is that one of your greatest strengths may be something that um, other people don't always appreciate as a strength, and um, that is a bit of frugality. So right here in the center, and that's the card that I'm drawn to first, even though we're in a sequence of 3, I'm drawn to this center card as the primary. Right in the center, what I'm seeing is the 4 of Pentacles. This is a card of very grounded energy, very much aware of one's resources and aware of being mindful of those resources. Sometimes this can venture into the realm of being overly fixated on holding on to what you have at the expense of opportunity and growth. But here I'm seeing it more as a sense of, you are frugal because you need to be. You are careful because life requires that. And I feel like the 8 of Wands coming in here really reinforces that. The 8 of Wands is very chaotic energy. It is energy of a lot of action, a lot of things going on, and it's unclear how things are going to shake out in the end. There is so much going on that it's hard to even predict which way things are going to fall. Things could turn out really well, they could turn out really poorly, they could turn out somewhere in between. It's hard to get a read on that. And so when in terms of your strength, I think your strength is to see the writing on the wall, see that things are unclear, see that there is chaos, and be able to hold down the fort during all of that, and be able to be prudent and cautious with your resources and manage them well is a great strength. Coming back to the first card that we drew, the 6 of Pentacles reversed. The 6 of Pentacles can be a card of generosity, and sometimes generosity to a fault, or generosity with some expectation of return, some kind of strings attached. With this card coming in reversed, the impression I'm getting with everything else going on is that you know when to cut back. You know when to stop giving. You know how to give only what you can afford to give. Um, and that may come off as being stingy to some. It may come off as being, you know, not necessarily ungrateful, but like not fulfilling your part of the social contract. Like, you know, say you have a young niece and you have to cut back the budget, and so you say, sorry niece, you're not getting a big birthday present this year, even though that's what I normally do. um, you know, there's a school of thought out there that filling that social obligation is more important than monitoring your budget, but that's not necessarily true, you know. It goes back to the annoying analogy that people always give of like, you've got to put your own oxygen mask on before you help somebody else. um, that is really probably only true on airplanes where oxygen is going to run out really quickly, maybe submarines, you know, that kind of thing. But you know, just to humor the analogy here, you know, you can't be generous with others if you don't have enough to take care of yourself. You are going to end up in a bad situation, and then the very same people that you would hope to be generous with are the ones that are probably going to have to rescue you from your own mistakes. Um, you know, I say that as a child of some very financially irresponsible parents. And my mom was the kind of person that would never miss a birthday. It didn't matter if it was never reciprocated, if, you know, if we had barely any contact with this person. If she felt like she was obligated to give a gift, she was going to give a gift, whether it was going to be appreciated or not. And she would do that at the expense of her own finances. And then when things got bad, it was people around her that had to bail her out, mostly me, you know, once I became an adult. Um, and so, you know, at a certain point, I had to draw the line and say, do not get me this. I don't want gifts from you. I want you to take care of yourself. And she never really did, but that was the best I could do for her. Long story short, that was a bit rambly. I apologize for going off on that tangent. But long story short is that you're not putting other people in that position. Your strength is the ability to set those boundaries and say, look, if I'm going to be, you know, a part of this social group, this family, this friendship, this organization, whatever, I know when I need to cut back and take care of me so that I can be there for others in the future. And I know how to manage my resources so that I don't make myself a burden to others, so that I can get through rough patches where things are very uncertain. I'm going to pull a few more cards just to see if we can get a little more flavor on this, um, a little more, a little more depth to what this strength is. So the next card we've got is the Moon reversed on that Six of Pentacles reversed. The moon coming in reversed, when the moon is reversed, we are in a state of fear and uncertainty, and we are letting that color our perception of reality, um, often to our own detriment. I think what this is saying here in terms of your strength is that you do not let the fear and uncertainty shape necessarily how you are going to behave. Um, what this could be saying, if this wasn't a reading about strength, is that you maybe cut back too much because you do get carried away with that fear and uncertainty, but that's not the vibe I'm getting from the rest of this reading. I think it's more you are able to be practical and pragmatic even when others are very scared and maybe even want to go further. Maybe you're in a situation where you are being very frugal and very careful, and you are not only being careful with what you spend, but being very, very reasoned and logical about how you're budgeting all of that out. You may be in a situation where there's somebody else in your life, maybe someone very close to you, like a life partner, husband, wife, who is wanting to go even further because they're scared, who wants to say, let's just cut everything and keep only the bare essentials. And you may be the one coming in with the voice of, okay, we we've cut as much as we need to cut, and some of these things, while maybe not the bare essentials, are kind of necessary in their own way for us to get through this situation. And so I feel like there's a balancing there, even when others are trying to pull you out of that balance. Our next card is going to be the Justice card on the Four of Pentacles. And here I feel like justice is coming in more as the weighing of options and the determining of what the truth is. Not so much, crime and punishment as justice is sometimes often perceived to be, but also just evaluating the situation for the truth of the matter and balancing the different factors. Part of the justice is the scales. And the justice card also comes with a sword, and swords in tarot are all about intellect. They're all about reasoned thinking. And so I think what justice is saying here with your Four of Coins is that you are very pragmatic. You are able to see the situation for what it is, and you are able to make the tough calls and evaluations in order to make the most sound choices, the most grounded, reasoned choices for the situation that you're in. And let's get one more clarifier. So coming in on the Eight of Wands, we have the Six of Swords reversed. I think what we're seeing here is that you have an incredible strength in your ability to stick it out through uncertainty. With the Six of Swords reversed, the Six of Swords is often a card of knowing when to cut your losses, knowing when to say goodbye, knowing when to get away from a bad situation. And when it's reversed, we have a sense of more sticking it out through the hard times. With that coming down on the Eight of Wands, I think what this is a recognition that sometimes people run into adversity. They are under a lot of stress. They see a lot going on, and they say, I'm just going to run. I'm just going to get out of this situation entirely. We're going to wipe it all. We're going to start from scratch. And I think what this card is saying about you is that you understand that it's not time for that yet. You see the value in sticking it out until more is known, because you don't know enough to make that decision on firm ground. You don't know enough to say that this is a wash and you've got to walk away. And so this card is invoking that sense of steadfastness, of no, this is tough right now, but I can hang in there until we know more. I can kind of stay on course and just keep the ship from going down until we know more about where to steer it to. So I think this is a beautiful reading. I know it sounds very, if you were coming in hoping to, hear that you are a creative genius and, you know, uh, uh, an incredible lover or whatever, this might be a little disappointing. But I think it's beautiful for you in this moment to have that validation of, no, you are incredibly grounded. You are able to balance difficult things. You are able to manage your resources, and you are able to stick it out through tough times and not get carried away with fear and the temptation to just run or or call it quits. You are hanging in there until you know what the lay of the land is. And you have an incredible strength in that ability to hang in there and keep things steady until things become clearer. I hope that reading was helpful to you. I hope that if you are going through a tough time right now, that you can pull on that strength and navigate through it and come out to much, much better times in the future. I hope to see you again for a future reading. Until then, thank you, and I'll see you soon. Welcome to our reading for deck number 2, the Elder Scrolls Skyrim Tarot. Again, today we are asking, what is your greatest strength? And I've already shuffled off camera. I'm going to cut the deck and jump straight into it. So, card number 1, the King of Voice. Number 2, the Six of Arms or Swords reversed. And the Moon reversed. Very interesting because 2 of these cards came up for deck number 1 as well. And so if you were feeling a little torn between the 2 decks, maybe take a look at that one if this one doesn't feel like it resonates. But let's jump into it. So with the King of Voice, that is the King of Cups. The King of Cups is the pinnacle of emotional maturity and balance. It is the peak of self-awareness um, and that sort of commitment to your own intuition and your sense of compassion for others. It reflects a person who is deeply empathetic, but also able to separate the feelings of others from their own feelings and keep that sort of clarity when making decisions. So for you, for your greatest strength, you have this incredible well of empathy and compassion, but also the ability to balance that, to separate your emotions from those of others, set those healthy boundaries. That's a really beautiful strength. With the Six of Swords reversed coming in next, that is a card of leaving something behind that no longer serves you. That's what it means when it's upright. So having it reversed here, I think that you have an incredible ability to stick it out and see things through to the end, even if they are not currently serving you. That doesn't mean that you should cut them off or that they will never serve you again. I think there are things in life, relationships, jobs, things like that, that have moments where they're just not giving us what we need. It doesn't mean that we write them off entirely, but that we understand that sometimes one person isn't able to give you exactly what you need in that moment, but that doesn't mean that it won't be there again. So I think in terms of your strength, you have the ability to see that, to understand that people don't always show up the way that you want them to. And sometimes you're going to find yourself in a situation with a relationship or a work arrangement, whatever kind of a social contract it may be. There are going to be times where it doesn't feel like it's working out in this specific moment, but you have the ability to see it through, to look to the other side and see a possibility where it may serve you again and be able to kind of get through those rough patches. And that probably draws on, again, the king of cups, that incredible emotional maturity, that ability to set those healthy boundaries, that self-awareness and introspection, to be able to acknowledge when you have something you need that you may not be able to get from the people around you, and being able to recognize that that's not necessarily their responsibility to provide that, but that doesn't mean that they are not still worthwhile to you, or people that you want to have in your life. Um, Next we have the moon reversed. What I get from this card here in terms of your strength is that you are very good at resisting the temptation to let your mind run away with you, especially when it comes to fear, anxiety, the unknown. The moon card is a card of staying in touch with your intuition, of being able to see things clearly even when it's dark. Um, when the moon card is upright, there's this sort of incredible ability to see things even though the light of the moon may distort them, even though the shadows look different. When the moon card is reversed, there's this temptation um, to let yourself believe that all of those shadows moving in the darkness are monsters. And with this being your strength, I think you have the ability to resist that. Even when others around you may be giving in to that, you have the ability to be the voice of reason and to say, like, hey, I know this is what this looks like, but that is not true. There is no foundation, there's no evidence for that. So we've got to manage our emotions around that idea, because we have no proof that that is what things actually are. Let's go ahead and draw a few more cards to see if we can get a little deeper into this strength. So on top of the King of Cups, we have the Emperor. Normally, these are very different energies for me. The King of Cups is very much a kind, compassionate, kind of a fatherly figure. Not necessarily, I mean, depending on what your father was like, you may have a different view of what a fatherly figure is, but kind of that kind of sweet old grandpa that is super mellow and has, kind of lost some of the rigidity that they may have had in younger years. I think about my dad, and my dad was like so he had such strong convictions about things when I was young, especially religion and politics. And as I got older and my dad got older, he mellowed out and he like changed his voter registration at a certain point. And I was just like, okay, cool, dad. So the King of Cups is more of cool older dad. And the Emperor to me is more like young firm dad. Um, but the Emperor does kind of rise above the king cards in the sense that the king cards are still minor arcana. The Emperor is major arcana. So this is sort of the ultimate ruling masculine energy. And by masculine, it doesn't mean that it is necessarily assigned to a particular sex or gender, but just that the quality of the energy is um, more aggressive, more firm, more logical and fiery rather than earthy or emotive. Um, but the Emperor card here coming in on top of the King of Cups, what that says to me is that you know where to draw the line. And that's kind of what we were talking about earlier with, the Moon card and the Six of Swords. The Emperor says to me, yes, you know how to set boundaries. You know how to say, look, this is what is acceptable behavior and this is what is not. Um, you can be very kind and loving while doing that, but still stay very firm and not let people cross those lines of yours. And so I think that is what it's speaking to with your strength, is that you can you can be in charge of your own life and be in charge of your own environment without being a dictator about it, without being unkind. You are able to do that with compassion and empathy, but still able to protect yourself with your emotional boundaries. Next card we have is the Ace of Spells. That is the Ace of Wands here. So this is coming in reversed. I think what that says to me is that you have this incredible ability to kind of pull inspiration from nothing. You have this incredible ability to pull drive and motivation from seemingly thin air. You are able to manufacture that even when it's not there. And with this coming in on top of the Six of Swords, where we were talking about knowing when to walk away and knowing how to stick it out, I think that this speaks a lot to being able to stick it out. For example, if you are trying to power through a job that isn't fulfilling you, but you think is going to be a stepping stone to something greater, what this says to me is like you have that ability to push through and create that in your own internal intrinsic motivation and be able to still do great work even though you're missing that sort of external motivator, or it's not connecting with your personal values or sense of fulfillment. You are able to see the end goal and rely on that to draw your motivation. The same could be true for relationships. Even when a person is not showing up the way that you would like them to, you are able to kind of remind yourself of the good qualities and the things that you do get out of this relationship and keep it going even through rough patches. For our final card, we have the Hanged Man reversed. So for that, coming in on top of the moon, I talked about the moon reversed here, meaning that you have the ability to resist that temptation to give in to fear and paranoia and anxiety and going into all the hypothetical bad things that could be going on here in this time of uncertainty. With the Hanged Man, I think that confirms you have the ability to keep yourself from getting stuck in a dark place. You have the ability to take yourself down from that position and to take control of the situation even when things are not within your control directly. Say you get laid off from a job, or somebody you're in a relationship breaks up with you. You can't make anyone give you your job back. You can't make that person want to have a relationship with you. But you have an incredible strength within you to be able to take that situation and say, this doesn't determine who or what I am. And I'm not going to give in to all of the fear and uncertainty that I could take from this situation. I am going to take control of the situation and take control of my own destiny. What I see here for you, to summarize it all, is you have an incredible strength, especially in times of adversity, to balance protecting yourself with connecting with others, to stay on track, to keep yourself out of the dangers of falling into a rut, falling into a depression, falling into crippling anxiety. You have this incredible ability to motivate yourself out of those dark places and to kind of I hate this expression, but pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. Um, it's that expression is used too often to tell people to get themselves out of, unjust situations that they should have never been in to begin with. Um, but in terms of your emotional survival, your spiritual soul survival in dark times like that, you do have that ability to keep yourself strong and keep yourself going in ways that not everyone can. Not everyone has that ability to self motivate and kind of find those internal goals to reach for when the external ones have fallen out of reach. So give yourself a pat on the back. You have an incredible strength within you. Don't let anybody take that away from you. Don't let anybody push those strong boundaries that you set. You have everything you need within you to succeed. With that, I am going to wrap up this reading. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you again in a future reading. Hello, and welcome to the reading for deck number 3. That is Grimalkin's Curious Cats Tarot. I've gone ahead and shuffled off camera, so we're going to go ahead and cut the deck and get right into it. Today we are asking, what is your greatest strength? So we'll pull our first 3 cards and see what we've got. Okay. All right, so we have the Knight of Pentacles, the Four of Swords, and the Three of Swords. What this tells me is that you have an incredible ability to endure. And that may not be the strength that you wish you had. um, if you have endured a lot already, you might wish that your strength could be something different, that you didn't need to have that strength. And I feel you. But what I see here, the Knight of Pentacles is someone who sets out on a long journey and takes it slowly, methodically, practically. Um, the Knight of Pentacles, where other knights in the minor arcana, the Knight of Swords, the Knight of Wands, the Knight of Cups, where they rush in impulsively and may run into trouble doing so, the Knight of Pentacles does not rush in a foolhardy way. They are slow and steady. That can also be to their detriment in that they don't jump on top of opportunities. They don't, they may not rush when they need to. But for you, your strength is your ability to take it slow, to take it step by step, to when you are on a journey, to break it down piece by piece and not feel like you have to rush to the finish line. You understand the value in taking your time. You understand the value in patience, and you understand that Rome wasn't built in a day. You are not going to finish everything that you want to accomplish by just pushing through and doing it all at once. You have to take your time, and you have to do it step by step, and you have to do it in the right way. You have to lay down a proper foundation before you can start building things up. You also understand when it's time to rest, when it's time to retreat, when it's time to take a break. Um, with the Four of Swords here, this is a card of rest and meditation. This is a card about understanding when you are mentally overloaded and knowing when to retreat and to kind of lay down those swords. Um, here we see this adorable kitten just curled up with one of their swords while the other three stand in the background. We see all of these birds trying to get the cat's attention, trying to keep it awake, but it understands that it needs a rest right now. In order to continue, it has to take the time to calm its spirit, calm its mind, to rest and rejuvenate in order to be able to go get those birds in the future. So, for your strength, you understand that you've got to take it step by step, and you understand that part of those steps is knowing when to rest and knowing when to take breaks. With the Three of Swords, um, the Three of Swords is just a card of heartbreak. It's a card of tragedy, of betrayal and disappointment, and but it's also a card of having to keep going when you feel deeply wounded. And I think that your strength here is that you can experience tragedy and heartbreak, and that is not going to end you. You have an incredible strength to keep going. And it may not always look pretty and it may not always feel good, but your strength is that it's not going to stop you, and it's not going people can stab you and stab you and stab you, and you are going to live on. And that in and of itself, that refusal to give up, that refusal to lay down and die, even though you've been dealt this terrible wound, is a strength. Let's go ahead and get some further depth to this reading. Draw some more cards. So on top of the Knight of Pentacles, we have the Nine of Swords reversed. The Nine of Swords is a card of anxiety and fear, just overwhelming your mind and clouding out everything else. Um, with that coming up reversed on top of the Knight of Pentacles, what I see here is that because you can focus in on the nitty gritty, because you can focus in on the material world, you can focus on the reality in front of you rather than the anxieties floating around your head. Because those anxieties, those fears, they aren't real, they're not tangible, they're not physical things, they are just thoughts. And with the Knight of Pentacles card, I think you have this incredible strength to say, okay, no, these things are going on in my head, but they are not the reality. The reality is the goal I have laid out in front of me, and I know what the steps are that I need to keep doing to achieve that goal, and I am going to get those steps done. Fear and anxiety be damned. And so for you, I think you have this incredible strength to stay on task, to not be distracted and overwhelmed by fear and anxiety, no matter how powerful they may be and how all-consuming they may be. For our next card, we've got the Seven of Pentacles reversed coming in over the Four of Swords. I think here we talked about the Four of Swords being knowing when you need to take a break, knowing when to rest. With the Seven of Pentacles, the image I get in my mind with the Seven of Pentacles is pretty perfectly represented by this card. This cat is staring daggers at these six birds in the tree, and it is so fixated on them that it is unable to see the seventh bird up in the sky. And so it has within it this idea of being so fixated on what you have and what you are trying to build that you can't see additional opportunity. I think what I have here with this coming in with the Four of Swords is you are able to recognize that if you stay so fixated on your goal and on keeping it all together at the expense of rest and relaxation, that you are going to crash. So you have this ability to understand that, yes, it's good to be focused on your goal. And when you're working, you want to be focused, but you have that ability to say, I understand that there is only so much focus and energy I can give to this right now. And you are able to tear your eyes away from it for a moment when you need that rest and relaxation. That is your strength. You are able to see, hey, I have given all the energy I have. I cannot keep staring at these birds another second, or I'm going to be doing harm to myself with this hyper focus. So I understand that I'm going to have to take my eyes off of this for a while so that I can rest and relax. And with our last card, we have the Ten of Swords reversed. This coming in on top of the Three of Swords is very fitting. Where the Three of Swords is kind of being the walking wounded, of having been dealt a death blow, but you're still going somehow. With the Ten of Swords, we have truly reached the end. There is no more resisting that. But what I see here is that you will not be taken to that point. You have such a strength about you that you are not going to let yourself be put in a situation where you're going to be killed, basically. Um, and when I say that, I think that reflects your soul and your spirit. You may go through incredible pain and suffering, but you are not going to let that pain and suffering end you. You are not going to let that be the thing that ends your journey. I think that with the Ten of Swords, there's kind of this idea of knowing when to quit, knowing when it's over. But in terms of what your strength is, I think what's showing up here is that you are not going to ever get to a point where spiritually, in your soul, you feel defeated. You have an incredible resilience to say, I am never down, I am never out. There is always something to keep going for. And that is an incredible strength. It may not be flashy, it may not be sexy, it may not be something that you want to, that you feel like bragging about, but it is one of the greatest strengths there is, to be dealt blow after blow after blow and be able to stay on task and be able to keep that fire within you, to keep on going, to resist that, and that depression and that defeatism. That is an incredible strength, and I hope you feel that. With that, I'm going to wrap up this reading. I hope it was helpful to you. For now, that's all for me. I hope to see you again in a future reading. All right, welcome to deck number 4, our Adventurer's Tarot, the Empress deck. So let's get right into it. Today's question is, what is your greatest strength? And I think this deck is going to be fun for this reading because it is based on tabletop role-playing games. It is based on, there's going to be a lot of cards that relate to, the classes in the game and things like that. And so it's going to be really intuitive to kind of pick up what those strengths may be. So for our first card, we have the Four of Beasts. When we're talking about beasts, we're talking about creatures of nature, of primal instinct, of sort of that. There's a lot of strength there. There's a lot of power there. I think what this card is saying is that you have a lot of raw primal power within you. And with it being associated with the number 4, it is very well balanced and it is very grounded and sound. You have you have a deep connection to that sort of instinctive power and drive. Um, I'm thinking about it in terms of like if you do yoga or you follow the sort of practices, the root chakra. The root chakra is being very grounded, um, very much able to pull that sort of primal earthy power and feel very secure and solid within yourself. You have the ability to feel rooted and safe and grounded wherever you are. And that is sort of the foundation for everything else, right? When we talk going back to the chakras, if your root chakra is blocked, you've got issues all the way up and down, because you're blocking that most foundational piece. With our next card, we have the Rogue coming in reversed. I don't know how important reversals are for me in this deck, so I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. But here, the Rogue, the strengths of the Rogue are finesse, that ability to be sneaky and stealthy and cunning, and to act with precision, to kind of find the most direct route to a goal that doesn't involve open conflict. Um, Rogues are very deadly in role playing games, right? They are very deadly in combat, but some of their greatest efficacy comes from being sneaky and avoiding just an outright fight, because sometimes you need things that you can't get by fighting. Sometimes you need to investigate. Sometimes you need to do recon and gather information. Sometimes it really pays to have the element of surprise. And so, with the rogue card coming in for you, I feel like you have an incredible ability to plan and prepare and strategize and come into a situation with the most advantage possible for you. So, combining your strengths here, we have that very grounded, rooted energy, that primal power, and that ability to be cunning and calculated and set yourself up in the best position possible for success. Those are incredible strengths. Finally, we have the 4 of adversaries reversed. What I take from this is that you are not easily intimidated. You are able to see, whether it's adversaries or just challenges in life, difficulties, obstacles to overcome, you are able to recognize those and see them not necessarily as adversaries, as dangers, as enemies, but rather to see them as just pieces on a chessboard that you can plan and account for. I think that you have an incredible ability not to let obstacles, challenges, people who oppose you. You have an incredible ability not to let those things shake your foundations. Because again, this is another card with a 4 on it. And here is where I think the reversal is important, because this is, if this came in the 4 of adversaries upright, I'd say like, maybe that impacts your ability to feel safe and grounded. But I think that because this is reversed here, that says clearly to me, you don't let that shake you. You do not let that impact your feelings of safety and security. You are so grounded. And that feeling of security is what allows you to feel confident in your abilities and do that preparation and planning and set yourself up for success. Let's get some additional cards just to bring deeper clarity and awareness. Okay, the sorcerer. That's so fun. So that comes in on top of the four of beasts. We were talking about primal power. Sorcerers in tabletop playing games or role playing games are innately magical. They do not need to study and hone their craft in order to perform acts of magic. They just know it and they just do it. It's sort of like the difference between, it's the difference between, um, you think about like when you're thinking about magic, you think about like, say, Harry Potter and how, yes, he has that innate magic, but he has to go to school and learn how to cast different spells in order to do things with it. I'm trying to think of a great example in media of a sorcerer. Um, think of like um think of like the Scarlet Witch in Marvel. She never went to school for this. She just had an experiment and suddenly she's got powers and she's just figuring out as she goes along. So for this, like your strength is that this comes naturally to you. You have this natural innate power. The challenge with that may be learning to use that effectively, but that's an incredible gift to just to have it within you and have it come naturally and without a lot of effort and study. You don't have to learn how to feel powerful. You don't have to learn how to use your power necessarily. It's going to come when you need it. Um, and sometimes it may come with unintended consequences, but I feel like you have the capability to deal with that because like I said, you're not thrown off by setbacks. You are not thrown out of whack by those kinds of things. So that's incredible. Our next card is going to be the construct coming in off the rogue. So again, with the construct, we have this. A construct is something that is built for a purpose. It's, um, it's like a robot that's built to, vacuum the floors or manufacture cars or God knows what. Um, so I feel like the construct here, I don't think you are a construct. I think that you have this incredible multi-purpose ability to be the right tool for the job, to kind of be that sort of chameleon and have all these different skills that you can apply and identify, okay, what's the right tool for the job and how do I apply it best? And I think that that goes back to the rogue. Rogues are known, we talked about how they do a lot of damage and they are very sneaky and capable. They have a lot of finesse. Um, they are also known as like being extremely, having a lot of skills, having expertise in certain things, having a lot of proficiencies. They are good at a lot of things and they are really good at certain things. And with that, I think what the strength is that you have the ability to be that sort of Swiss Army knife in life. You have the ability to flip through your set of skills and be like, okay, I know which one to apply here. We got this. With our last card, we have the Two of Adversaries. I think what I take from this, your strength is that probably your greatest adversary is yourself. When I think of twos, I think of duality and I think of opposing forces. And when I think of duality and opposing forces, I think of internal struggle because I'm a Gemini and that's how I live. So just those connections for me, what this tells me is that your greatest adversary is yourself. And so you spend your time figuring out how to outpower, outwit, outsmart yourself. And because you keep doing that, no other adversary out there really holds a candle. You have all of these incredible abilities because you are you are trying to one up yourself, and yourself is pretty dang awesome already. So, for just to wrap it all up here, your strength, you have incredible natural gifts, incredible primal power within you. You didn't have to work that hard for them. And that may make them seem, I don't know. I think maybe sometimes you might struggle with feeling a certain amount of imposter syndrome because you it did just come naturally to you. But you have those skills whether you worked for them or not. They're just there, and that's incredible, and don't look that gift horse in the mouth. Um, you also you have because you have all of these natural gifts, you have the ability to assess every situation ahead of you and prepare yourself and be ready with the right skills to meet whatever challenge comes your way. And because you are so hard on yourself, because you are constantly battling with that imposter syndrome, the person that you're measuring yourself up against most is yourself. And because of that, like, you are so far above and beyond anything else, anyone else that might come at you. And I hope that from that you take a lot of security and confidence, because your strength is that you came by it naturally and you wear it well. And so go on, get some. That's the best I can do to wrap that up. Like, go on with your bad self. I'm going to leave it on that note. Um, it was wonderful reading for you today, and I hope to see you again in a future reading.